Film Taxi Driver was one that I was told many, many times I needed to watch. And it was always on the back burner. I don't know if you have the same issue I do, where you put in just a fuck ton of movies into your watch lists all over your streaming services, and then when you finally get the time to watch one, you're plagued by indecision, and then end up watching like the same episode of South Park that you've seen 1,000 times. Hello, welcome to Blockbuster Review. If you don't know what that is, it is where I play a single game of Tetris Marathon, 150 lines, and try to review a film before I get a game over or we get to 150 lines. Standard practice is no spoilers to line 50, but I don't think it'll be an issue here. So the film Taxi Driver was one that I was told many, many times I needed to watch. And it was always on the back burner. I don't know if you have the same issue I do, where you put in just a fuck ton of movies into your watch lists all over your streaming services, and then when you finally get the time to watch one, you're plagued by indecision, and then end up watching like the same episode of South Park that you've seen 1,000 times. Maybe not South Park, replace it with The Office or what have you. Anyway, I kept seeing Taxi Driver on Netflix, and was like, man, everybody who talks to me about movies says, you gotta see Taxi Driver. And then with the popularity of the Joker film starring Joaquin Phoenix, it came up again where it was like, yeah, you gotta see Taxi Driver. I mean, you know, the Joker movie borrows a lot from Taxi Driver, it seems, and it's not as good as Taxi Driver. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, Joker was very, very good. Let's check out Taxi Driver. And you know, they probably couldn't have been more right. It was a very weird experience watching Taxi Driver after seeing Joker. I think I've seen it 3 times, 2.5, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, this really owes everything to its predecessor, Taxi Driver. It's a similar story. There's a gentleman? Wow, words have just disappeared from my brain. A gentleman named Travis Bickle who... it's established that he has insomnia, but you don't really, I don't really think any weirdness of him. He is told, oh, if you have insomnia, why don't you go to the dirty pictures? I don't know if the assumption is there that you jerk off and then you have to go to sleep. I mean, you know, what do I know? But he's like, yeah, I tried that, it doesn't work. And then he essentially, from what I could tell, drives all day, all night, the entire week he can, and makes a fuck ton of money for the year this came out, which I should know and don't know. I could probably scroll in the IMDb page I have over here to see it, but, you know, I'm playing Tetris currently. Anyway, he becomes infatuated with a woman who is at this election campaign office, played by Sybil Shepherd, and he becomes essentially a stalker, kind of following her around and kind of freaking her out. She takes notice until she is charmed by him and agrees to a date or two, until he does, you know, oh, I'm already at 50, I can go over the entire movie. Until he suggests they go to a porn movie for their first date. Now, that seemed crazy. It seems like a very odd thing to do. And then for a half a moment, I kind of think, okay, well, maybe he's just kind of lost some of his social skills, because he mentions that he was in a war, I believe. I think he was in Vietnam. I might be wrong. But he is a vet of the Marines. At least that's what he says he is. And then after that, she, of course, is very turned off by this. She's not cool with the fact that they went to see he took her to a straight-up pornog, and she's upset by this and stops calling him. And then he kind of goes down what seems like maybe a rabbit hole caused by this failure in his romantic entanglement with this woman. But there's kind of cracks in his story, and I think that's what makes it a good movie, and also one that I want to rewatch to kind of get all the bits and pieces that I may have missed. Because I wonder, post-watch, how much of that was... how much of me, like, forgiving his character was giving, like, the benefit of the doubt to possibly crazy person, I also see what I have left on this field of play, and it looks like absolute ass, and I'm not happy with my play right now. Let me get some wiggle room up in here. So eventually, he becomes unhinged. He starts buying guns, which, if this movie isn't, like a big explanation of why there needs to be stricter gun laws, I don't know what is, because this dude, sure, he gets the gun illegally, but he also just kind of has a bunch of them all the time, and was walking around with them, making almost like James Bondian level holsters for him and shit. He gets involved in a literal robbery where he murders a dude, and the dude covers up for him. And it kind of has the same structure. Well, I mean, it came up with it first. It has the same kind of structure as Joker, where you're like, oh, well, maybe, maybe he's just a little different, maybe that. And then when you get to the climax where he's, straight murdering a bunch of people in a stairwell, trying to quote-unquote save a underage prostitute, shit got crazy. It got crazy real quick. And then the movie ends with kind of this dream sequence, I want to say, implying that he imagined that he came out a hero and everybody loves him. But the thing that I wanted to ask, and I've only seen it once, and I actually had to look up the ending of Taxi Driver to understand, because it leaves this kind of weird open ending where there's a voiceover of the parents of the underage prostitute thanking him for saving her, and then he gives a taxi ride to the woman that doesn't want anything to do with him after taking her to the pornog theater. But the reason that I don't know, because I think the assumption is, okay, that's just in his mind, he's a little bit crazy. But there's something that I wanted to talk about with somebody, and I'm sure somebody would have responded to maybe a text or a call. But during the film, his taxi buddies, one of them is Peter Boyle, who's killing it in this movie, they keep calling him Killer, and I don't know why. But at the end of the movie, when he gets that voiceover and he's back at his taxi job, it would make sense that they called him Killer because he had murdered a bunch of fucking dudes and is considered a hero because they were all bad people, I guess, even though he had like 4 illegal weapons that he took into that building to just murder a whole bunch of people. So why would they call him Killer throughout the entire movie, unless it's much like Joker, the movie that ripped this off completely? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go see Taxi Driver. It's on Netflix. It's pretty rad. I dug it. I'm probably going to watch it again. I'm not saying anything to you that you probably haven't already heard. Have a good one.